We are going to talk to Paul from Canada. Uh-oh, there's two of you. Hello, Paul. You were on SkepTalk on the line. What would you like to talk about today?
So I have a question, probably more for Shannon, because it's more of a sort of psychology type framework, and that is you're probably familiar with. I'm probably messing up the terminology, but sort of sociology perspective of faith, where it's belief, belonging, and behavior, like the sort of three things that make up, what you know causes you to believe in something. And so my question is, do you think you can believe in, or believe is not the right word, have faith or belong to a religious group, even if you don't believe? I would be thinking in terms of one of sort of progressive churches, but really it could be any organization that you feel comfortable with. If I recall correctly, Shannon, you're originally Anglican,
Mhm.
so as you know, that's LGBT. They have you know same-sex marriages and other things of that nature, right? So I'd be comfortable with that. Whereas if it were sort of fundamentalist, anti-abortion, anti-LGBT, I would not feel comfortable. But there are churches that are, have a positive environment now, and all organizations have sort of bad history. But in terms of right now, there are some groups that, they're doing good work, and they do charitable work, with, shelters and kitchens and other things like that. We part of it. So part of me is I can suspend my disbelief in this case and still sort of enjoy the community without actually believing in God, because fundamentally the things that I care about in terms of community and helping my fellow man, I can do through the church. I just want to know what your perspective was on that thought.
I mean, my perspective would be if people are doing good things or an organization is doing good things and they align with my moral system, I'd never be opposed to being in communion with them. It seems to me like it would be arbitrary, like not to, right? Like if so long as somebody is consistent, or the group or organization is consistent with my moral integrity and they're doing things that I think are good in the world, I would never stop anybody from or discourage anybody from being a part of that group if they feel like it benefits them. I think it's a different question whether or not it's true, and whether the epistemological framework and how you approach reality through that epistemological framework impacts anything else. I think that's a broader question. But I think, like, on the micro level, that I wouldn't have an issue with that. There's lots of different secular communities as well. I don't know if the Anglican Church actually does do gay marriages now. I know the United Church does. They're like, the Protestant faith is split up, but pretty broadly. So I
Yeah,
don't know if the Anglican Church does. If they do, that's great. That's awesome. They didn't when
yeah,
I attended
I could
church.
be mistaken
I
on
can
that,
take it.
but I know it's affirming, anyways. Let's put it that way. Certainly not,
Yeah, I mean, I guess my attitude
hate
towards it
hate
would
hate
be that
hate
if people
preaching
are
like
doing
you
good
see in
things.
other.
Yeah, I guess my attitude towards it would be if people are doing good things and they're aligned with, my moral framework, I would never not be in communion with them. Like, if they needed help with something, I wouldn't just for the sake of, because they're a church, not, participate in something that's beneficial to the broader community and have the opportunity to meet those people and to help them simply because I wasn't a member of their congregation. I think it's a different question whether or not I'd be a member of the congregation if I don't believe. I think that's different. I don't think that my intellectual integrity would allow me to do that. Like, I I feel as though I would feel like I was lying to myself and everybody around me by being there and kind of acting as though I, share the same faith beliefs as them when I don't. Like, I would be being dishonest to myself and being dishonest to them, and that's not in line with my moral framework. If they knew that I absolutely didn't believe and were still welcoming to me and aligned which they would have to do if they are aligned with the moral framework that I adhere to. They would be non-exclusionary. Um, then I would still help them if they were doing good stuff for the community. Does that answer your
Yeah, I
question?
just I yeah, I just so I g like, oftentimes I find on these calls, which sort of by design, are kind of looking at the 2 extremes, whereas for me, I'm more interested in, like, that balancing line of, like, where is that fine point of, like, whether I would because in my case, actually, I actually am an atheist, but I
Mhm,
do feel kind of akin with a lot of the progressive churches, and
mhm,
and there are I kind of sort of miss the community, the sort of religious
mhm.
community. Yes, there are secular organizations, but it just doesn't resonate the same way. I don't know how to explain that. It's just more of a
Yeah,
feeling,
I know,
really.
I
So
think
it's
I
kind of I
understand.
can't quantify it.
Yeah, no, I think I
Paul,
understand.
would
Like,
you
go ahead, Paul.
Paul, would you feel comfortable if you were missing community and you thought there was a bunch of cool people who had good ethics, who had formed themselves the flat your local flat Earth society? Would you feel comfortable being a part of that group for the sake of the ethical behavior and the social ties?
That's
I
an
don't
interesting
think I
question.
would in that case, but there's where it wouldn't be so much the matter of the community as I would see that as being disingenuous because I would see those people as being just like ignorant about science and the way the world works. So it would, like I would be like, these people are a bunch of morons. So it wouldn't be so much of like, oh, I couldn't accept the community. It's just like, I wouldn't, I would feel the same way as I would if I were in a church that was homophobic. And that's not where I'm
Okay,
at. Do
but you
your thing.
understand that the
So
key. I'm just curious about why you think there's a distinction here, because the key belief that they hold, if you wanted to become a member, the number one thing is absolutely going to be believing in God. That's the first statement of faith item for every membership in every church, right? Believe in God.
yep, yep,
And
understood.
you don't hold to that, the first main thing. So in your mind, what is the difference between that flat Earth society and the church? Because you don't hold to
I
either thing.
well, I think what it is I there's probably a proper terminology for it. I call it the placebo effect. What it is, you know, faith is believing in something without evidence. So, you know, there is no evidence that God exists. But similarly, like you can't say that like it's impossible either. So if if the placebo is believing in God and it makes me a better person, I feel part of something and I'm having benefiting from it, whether it's true or not, it's kind of
What
irrelevant.
are you benefiting from
Uh,
though in that situation? Are you benefiting from not the belief, you're benefiting from, it sounds like, social or community ties?
yeah,
Like you feel as though you're missing out on social and community ties that you previously were able to satiate through church attendance, and now that avenue is no longer available to you. Like if you here's a question, like if you went back, would you
hmm
pretend that you believe, or would you go back as someone who's open about their beliefs, or would you try to be stealth and go in and just not talk about it at all and hope it doesn't come up? Like, how would you go about doing that? I'm just curious what that looks like in
uh,
your mind.
the way it looks in my mind, and like I don't know how real this is. I mean, I left the church
Mm.
like 40 years ago, so like part of this might be just like I'm talking out my ass. But the way I envisioned it is like I would be there, I'd participate. I'd, if someone asked me, I would be honest with them, but I wouldn't sort of make a big deal of the fact that some of these
Do you think that
hymns
would
just
change
don't
the
resonate with me.
dynamic though?
Yeah.
Do you think that being honest in that situation with that group of people would change the dynamic of the interaction? Or do you think that it would be the same?
I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is uh, to this point, I've engaged online, and obviously, online is a, a different dynamic from actually going to a church and being face to face. But the reason why I
Right.
say online, I have done that is actually there's someone you're probably familiar with because he's in your neck of the woods, Reverend Ed Severs, who
No idea.
like I've joined some of his things and followed him online,
Mhm.
and I'm like I feel comfortable. And there's a bunch of atheists I can see from the comments. It's like I think probably a third of his followers are atheists because everyone's like, okay, well, he's a good moral guy. He's got a good message, and I disagree with him on the fundamental, like I believe in God, but otherwise, I like what this guy has to say. And so there's where the fact that there is a group online that of atheists that are following an Anglican pastor,
Mhm.
and we feel very welcome. Would it translate the same if I were at an physically at an Anglican church? I don't know. And
Yeah.
like I
And I'd
said, I've
always
been
be
atheist
wondering
for
what the
40 years, so
motives
I
are like for creating that environment where I feel like, are they attempting to hope to convert me if they're being welcoming? And if not, would they be shunning me? I mean, I don't know. I can't ascribe anybody any motives. And congregations at base are just a construction of a group of people who are human, who have human interactions with one another. I don't think we should ascribe any motives to anybody. But
Well, I can
that
tell you as an
aspect of the
evangelical
dynamic
that
would make me uncomfortable. Like, it would make me
as an
really uncomfortable. I
evangelical,
would
we absolutely targeted when if you got wind that someone in the church wasn't a believer but was coming to visit,
you'd love
we
them.
were you would love bomb those people like crazy. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
See, I'd be
I mean,
worried that
I
parts of
was
that were
raised Catholic,
disingenuous for
and
that
like I would
reason.
never go back to a Catholic church because
Right.
there's a
Ditto.
number of things where I was just like, there's no way I would ever go back to be into a Catholic church. But like Anglican or United Church, yeah, I could totally see myself going there because you know, by and large, I guess I come from a more political background than religion.
Mm.
Like politics has always been more important to me than religion, and so you know, the old the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I kind of like, well,
Uh,
okay, I align
I get what
myself
you're
with these
saying,
people,
but to me, it's
so
like
I
a
feel good
you
there.
can't get the toothpaste back in the tube situation, right? Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, I am not religious. If I go there, I'm going there under the pretense either I'm going there, like, just flat out being honest about my position, and then they may see me as antagonistic, or they may try to love bomb me, which changes that interaction dynamic, or
Yeah.
or they may shun me. All of the things, like, I'm othered now, whether I like it or not. They don't see me as the same as that group. They may humor me in multiple ways, but I'm
Mhm.
I'm no longer a member in the way that I previously was, and I can't change anything about that. So, I just don't feel like you can, air quotes, "go home again" in a situation like that, but I understand the inclination, and I understand that, like, in
Yeah.
some situations when you're talking to somebody like me or like Paul, what you're gonna hear is, "No, you can't go back, and those people are bad, and that place is bad." But that's not always true, like, people are people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think
I
I
mean,
would be comfortable.
yeah, I
I
guess
would
where
feel like too
I
many
find it because I
aspects have
listen to
changed.
conversations with theists, and they're trying to like sort of like like the flat earthers or
Mm,
creationists or other things like that, and I'm just like that's just such a load of nonsense that when if anyone's like trying to convince me of the evidence of God, they've
yeah,
totally lost me. But if they're trying to, if I just find it ironic because that's what you get, right? For the most part, certainly online is people like, oh, and I probably the remaining callers on the show will be like, hey, here's all the evidence for God's existence, and you're going to shoot them down. Whereas if they actually went, hey, here's what being part of something could bring to you, and how believing in God and could actually make you a better person and or whatever, they actually have a rational argument that people like me would be like, Okay,
I don't
yeah,
think believing in God makes you a
yeah,
better
okay.
person.
Let's cover the conversation.
I don't think
You're
there's a
trying to convince
rational
me the
argument for
world was
that
created
one,
in
bud.
4004 BC. Like, boom, end of conversation. I'm out.
Yeah, no, I don't think that believing in God makes you a better person. Like, you lost me there. Like, you
Yeah,
absolutely lost me there. I don't think that that makes you a better person, and I think that if you get your moral framework from a text, from what I see as a work of fiction, then your moral framework is, a house built on sand, and it's not really a moral framework. Like, so those things I don't think you can get from a church. The only part that I might agree with you with, but I think you can get it elsewhere and in a more genuine way if you really truly don't believe, with people who believe similar sort of things. I mean, like, join a club, right? Like, go find a sport that you like, or like a tabletop gaming association, or like something else. Do community work if you want to do that, and you can get that elsewhere. Because I feel like aspects of the interaction would just definitionally have to be disingenuous or very, very charged with pretense. And then you wouldn't be getting what you ostensibly want out of that situation without having the back end concern that maybe some or all of these interactions aren't what they used to be, or aren't what I want them to be. That's
yeah, that
that's
makes
my
sense.
position on it.
Yeah,
Any
no, that makes
social
sense.
connection you make, any social connection you make in that church is going to be predicated on. It's like if you're an undercover cop, you can make friends as an undercover cop, but you're an undercover cop. You're like, those friendships aren't based on real things; they're based on an absolute base of, I've lost it. It's all based on a lie, right? And that's what
yeah,
you're not going to create genuine connection in that church. You're going to create facades of connection. And so I was very fascinated for you to say that you somehow wouldn't feel comfortable doing the very same thing in a flat earth society, even though they might be incredibly nice people who have exactly matching morals with you. For some reason that's a bridge too far, but this one's not. I just invite you to think about a little bit more as to why you think that's a distinction with a difference.
well,
We do need to let you go
I
though
think I
too,
can.
Paul. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
You'll
yeah,
okay,
be
sorry. That was
yeah.
homework for next time.
homework. Yeah, call
Yeah.
us back and we'll we'll have a
All
further
right. Well, thanks a lot
discussion.
for